Mounting the 3rd generation Starlink standard onto your vehicle roof rack should be super easy. And actually, it is super easy, especially if you know what you're doing and you use the optional roof rack mount kit, which is sold separately on Starlink.com for about $10. Like I said, you need to know what you're doing, which brings me to this. There's one big problem I see with the installation guide included with this mount that creates confusion and has the potential to make installation much more difficult than it should be. When it's mounted correctly on your car roof, the front end of your Starlink will be lower than the rear. This is so that airflow over your vehicle will push the unit down against your roof rather than trying to lift it off like an airplane wing. And if you take a close look at the drawings in this guide, you'll see most of them are oriented so that the front of the vehicle is to the left. Look at all these drawings. Left, left, left. However, when you look at drawings 5, 6, 7, and 8, you see the mounting bracket in much greater detail, but now the orientation has changed. You're looking at it from the rear with the front pointing away from you. But the front is kind of now more a little bit to the right rather than to the left. So they flipped it on you. All the other drawings show the front to the left. But now, when you're up on a ladder actually bolting this thing to your roof rack, you may end up putting it on backwards like I did because of this. I really wish they would have added some written instructions to go along with these drawings. However, you can do an online search for Starlink roof mount instructions, and you'll find a PDF version of this guide that is very similar, but it is 7 pages instead of 2, and it includes written instructions. But it still has the same problem with these detailed drawings pointing the wrong way, even going so far as to have 2 drawings on the same page with no indication that the orientation is flipped. And you know the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Even with the written instructions, it is very easy to get that visual stuck in your head. So if they would have simply flipped the drawings 5, 6, 7, and 8 so that they were pointing the other direction, it would have saved a whole lot of confusion. Also, keep in mind the cable comes into the Starlink standard from the rear, unlike the Starlink Mini where the cable comes in from the front. But anyway, now that that's out of the way, let me show you how to install this thing. Now when you first take your Starlink out of the box, it comes like this. It's all in one piece, and it includes this kickstand, which is used for propping it up when you set it on the ground, for example. But we need to remove this kickstand. And so if you look at drawing number 3 on the instructions here, where it shows you how to remove it, it shows somebody's hand casually grabbing it like this. Well, that's kind of difficult. You really got to squeeze this thing hard. And so I found it was a little bit easier to put my thumbs under here, lift it up while also pulling it this way, and that way you can release it. And what you're doing basically is releasing these tabs here from these slots. All right, now that we've got the kickstand out of the way, let's take a look at what's in this box. Here's the instruction sheet I was telling you about. And the first thing you see probably is this big mounting plate. Now this is going to be what takes the place of the kickstand. So this is what we took out. This is what's going to replace it. Notice that the kickstand had these little tabs I just showed you. But now we've got, this is metal, so we've got these little screws that we're going to tighten up that are going to spread these out to put pressure on the slots on the Starlink. That's what's going to hold this in place. In addition to that, we have this guy, which we saw in drawing number 4. We also have the mounting bolts. There's only 4 of them. They are all the same length. And we have a 6mm Allen wrench. That's for these bolts. And then we also have a 3mm Allen screwdriver. This guy is for these screws right here. So we are almost ready to start assembling. However, before we begin assembling, we need to know how thick our roof rack is, because that's going to determine whether this piece goes on here like this or like this. So then you want to measure your roof rack thickness. And if I measure mine, it's just a little bit over 1.5 inches, about 1 9/16 inches, which is 40 millimeters. And so if we look at drawing number 4 on here, we see that one orientation goes 15 to 30 millimeters. The other one goes 29.5, let's call it 30 millimeters to 45 millimeters. And that would be not this way, but this way. And so the very first thing I'm going to do is grab a couple of these bolts, and I'm going to put them through these first 2 holes on the mounting bracket here, like this. And I'm going to put them into this adjustable piece here, like this. And I'm not even going to go finger tight with these yet. These are just very loose, as you can see. I just want them in there so they don't fall out. And then I'm going to put the remaining 2 bolts into this hinged part on the bottom part of the mount here. And again, I'm not going very far with them, just like that. Then I'm going to bring my roof rack up here. And I'm going to put this whole assembly around the roof rack like this. And I'm going to fold the back piece so that these 2 bolts go into these slots on the back of the mounting bracket. And now I can tighten these up. Okay, I think that's tight enough. So now, this thing is really good and solid. That thing ain't going anywhere. So now I'm pretty much ready to mount the Starlink on here, but first I want to put the cable through here. We need to have the cable going underneath this part of the bracket, and notice that I have the electrical contacts pointing up. And it's easiest if you pull a lot of this cable through here so that you have something to work with. So I'm going to put this in here, good and tight like that. By the way, one thing to keep in mind, this is very similar to an Ethernet cable. Although an Ethernet cable, you have that little tab that you can push with your thumb when you want to unplug it. With this thing, all you do is unplug it. Just pull it out. You just got to give it a good solid yank and it'll come right out. But we are putting it together. So you put it in, make sure it seats all the way in there. And then you just slide this thing onto the bracket. Like that. And now, this is where the screwdriver comes into play. You tighten these little Allen screws down like this, and they will spread that part of the little mounting tab into the mounting slot and make it real tight so this thing will not come off. And just like that, you're mounted and ready to go. And then if you ever want to remove this from your mounting bracket, you just take your Allen screwdriver here and you loosen these 2 screws. You back them out quite a ways. And then you can put your fingers right on this part of the mounting bracket and squeeze. And that'll release it and it'll drop right out of there, just like that. And then you just pull this guy and you're free. So that's it. I've got it mounted on the roof. It was super easy to install, especially once you realize that those pictures are backwards in that install guide. But after you know that, it's a piece of cake. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. That would really help us out. And share it with anybody you think may benefit from seeing it. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.